I think like part of millennial culture is like a work-life balance, or at least an acknowledgement that there's life outside of work. For my first, I don't know, 3 to maybe 5 years after college, it was very much like 80 hours a week or more, and just like grinding, because I thought that's what it took to be successful. And I think it's like doing that when you're 23 versus 32 is an entirely different game. But it's fascinating to see as more people our age get into leadership positions, right? Because it all begins, culture exists in a variety of different ways, but ultimately it's a reflection of leadership. And so if the leaders value this type of emotional and lived experience for themselves, I assume they're going to want it for their team. So I'm excited for like what does the next 10 years look like, where more people our age are getting into positions of leadership and they've grown up in this tech enabled era where you're on 100% of the time. And what is that doing to people? And once they get in positions of power and responsibility, like how do you influence for good? Is that something you've thought about? Is that like you're maybe subconsciously you're responding to that and iterating with the team based on that?
Yeah, it's definitely something that I think about in a couple different contexts. There's external pressure. There's like the pressure of like your boss and pressure to climb in your career if that's something you feel pressure for. There's also knowing yourself. And I think this comes in with running, this comes in with career stuff. It's like knowing when you can push and when you can rest. Is today a day that I sort of like maintain? I do something light. Like what is going to bring me energy and what is going to uplift me rather than tire me more?
Summer 2021, my pinned tweet is if you trust your coach when they say to go hard, you better trust your coach when they say to go easy too. I tweeted this at 9:14 on a Saturday morning. I was a couple of miles into what was scheduled to be a 20-mile long run, and a lot of stress was occurring, I think, physically and maybe also mentally. I don't remember. But the follow-up tweet was today was very much a situation where I did both. My coach set my expectation that 10 miles was okay if needed. I felt fantastic at 9. He suggested I consider not overthinking it and do it. 20 miles later, I'm stoked on that decision. Mentally, that was my easiest 20 miler ever. This is something that I think is the biggest predictor of long-term success and growth, right? Your ability to know when to push and your ability when to pull back. And the way I see pulling back is like you're pulling back on a bow and an arrow, and then you release it, or a slingshot, or whatever you want the metaphor to be. And I've found so much value in drawing boundaries and creating like, nope, I need to do this, whether it's stopping work early, whether it's like going for a run at 10 a.m., or whether it's like pushing the fucking pedal to the floor and like emptying the tank on a project, Black Friday push, whatever the situation requires. When you have that capacity to push and you push, magic happens. When you don't and you push, injury, burnout, all these things that we don't want to happen happens. And so ultimately, like maybe you're able to be successful in the short term when you push when you shouldn't. But to me, the exciting part is when people, as you said, understand that like boundary and respect it, honor it, and like calibrate their actions based on it. So I love the way you said it, and I'm going to step off my soapbox now, but I love this topic.
Yeah, no, you said something really interesting in there about success. And I think part of what I see as the pressure that drives people to make unsustainable choices for them is like this idea of calling success or failure too soon. Like for most people, they want to have like a healthy body for their whole lives, right? Like I don't think anyone's like, oh, I'm looking forward to not having a healthy body. And like take the topic of DNFs. And I think in a lot of the running community, like there's like, people are like, oh, DNF, like it happens, like can be the smart choice, whatever. Reframing that kind of thing. And like, I agree with that, right? Where I'm like, sometimes like a DNF is a really smart choice. Like that's the sustainable choice. Not only is that not a failure, it's a success. Like the success might be that you'd been struggling to listen to your body and you decided to listen to your body in that moment, despite the stakes feeling high. The success might be that your year is not wrecked. The success might be that like there's another experience or adventure or day that you're going to remember that you get to do because you were able to pull the plug on that day. And I think that applies across running, across career stuff, that it's like, it's so often too soon to call something a success or a failure. And when we do it, we make poor decisions around it that feel unsustainable.